I stood frozen, my heart pounding in my chest as I stared at the unfamiliar words glowing on Amanda's phone screen. Every letter seemed to shout a betrayal I could scarcely comprehend. My mind, once a fortress of trust, was now a battlefield of confusion and disbelief. Was it truly possible? Could the woman I had shared my life with, the mother of our 2 children, be intertwined in a clandestine affair? The text was innocuous at first glance. A simple message from a friend. But the time of night, the secrecy, it all hinted at something more. Something dark. I swallowed hard, a lump forming in my throat as I remembered her smile, her laughter. Every moment that now felt like a lie. A montage of Amanda's recent behaviors flitted through my mind, each memory more damning than the last. The late-night outings she couldn't fully explain, the whispered phone calls when she thought I wasn't listening, the sudden influx of work events that seemed oddly convenient. I stepped back, letting the phone fall carelessly onto the couch. It was as though a veil had been lifted, revealing the cracks in the foundation of our life together. I recalled the softness of her touch, the warmth of her gaze, a gaze that now seemed directed elsewhere. Every affectionate gesture and whispered promise echoed hollowly, tainted by suspicion. The house felt different, colder. Each room, once filled with the comfort of shared memories, now held shadows of deception. I wandered aimlessly, my thoughts a tumultuous sea of love and betrayal. How had we arrived here? How had I been so blind? Sitting at the edge of our bed, I felt the weight of our history pressing down on me. The love we had nurtured, the life we had built. It all seemed to unravel with each passing moment. My chest tightened as waves of anger and sadness washed over me, but beneath it all simmered a need for truth, for clarity. I knew I couldn't continue in this fog of doubt. I needed to understand why and how we had reached this breaking point. The quest for truth loomed before me, daunting yet necessary. As I closed my eyes, I steeled myself for the journey ahead, knowing that the path to revelation would demand everything I had. But one thing was certain. I would not rest until the shadows gave way to light, revealing the full extent of Amanda's betrayal. The alarm buzzed insistently, dragging me from a restless sleep. I lay there for a few moments, listening to the sound of Amanda's soft breathing beside me. It was a symphony of peace that belied the storm swirling inside me. How strange it was to lie next to someone who felt so distant, separated by an invisible wall of secrets. I forced myself out of bed, every movement mechanical, rehearsed, part of the facade I had to maintain. The morning was a blur of routine. I moved through it automatically, making breakfast, packing lunches, all while wearing the mask of normalcy. Yet, each interaction was tinged with a newfound awareness. I watched Amanda move around the kitchen, noting the slight hesitations, the diverted gaze. How had I never noticed these before? How many times had I taken her silence as comfort rather than suspicion? My mind catalogued every inconsistency, weaving them into a tapestry of doubt. At work, the chaos of daily tasks offered a temporary refuge. Numbers and figures were predictable, unlike the turmoil of my personal life. I focused on spreadsheets and conference calls with all my might, desperate to escape the questions that hovered at the edge of my mind. Despite the distraction, I couldn't help but feel an undercurrent of unease threading through every moment. Each phone ring, every passing colleague, jolted my thoughts back to Amanda and the world she'd crafted without me. Lunch hour offered little solace. I found myself seated at the cafeteria with a group of coworkers, their laughter and idle chatter ringing hollow. I nodded along, my contributions minimal, all the while feeling like an intruder in my own life. Conversations circled around weekend plans, sports scores. Simple topics that once felt comforting now seemed impossibly trivial. Late in the afternoon, a conversation with my colleague and friend, Sam, pulled me back to reality. He was a good man, perceptive and kind, and always open to lending an ear. We stood by the window, overlooking the city where light and shadow played across skyscrapers. "You've been quiet lately, Nate," he remarked, his voice carrying a hint of concern. "Everything all right?" I hesitated, the weight of unspoken words pressing heavily on my chest. Just dealing with some personal stuff, I replied, keeping it intentionally vague. Sam nodded, offering a small, understanding smile. If you ever need to talk or grab a drink, I'm here. His sincerity was a lifeline, a reminder that I wasn't entirely alone in navigating this chaos. But my pride, my fear of vulnerability, held me back from tearing down the walls I'd built. Instead, I thanked him, accepting the offer without committing to it. The drive home was uneventful, each street and intersection a monotonous blur. As I pulled into the driveway, I steeled myself for the evening ahead. The house was quiet, the kids engrossed in their after-school activities, Amanda busy in the kitchen. I lingered in the doorway for a moment, observing her, wondering if she felt the shifting tides as acutely as I did. Dinner was a study in contrasts. The table was set with care, the meal prepared with the usual attention to detail, a picture of domestic harmony. Yet beneath the surface, tension simmered, unspoken and undeniable. We navigated small talk with practiced ease, the kids' laughter filling the void, unaware of the silent battle between their parents. As the evening wore on, I found myself retreating to the solitude of our backyard. The stars were obscured by clouds, a fitting metaphor for the uncertainty clouding my life. I stood there, breathing in the cool night air, trying to find solace in the quiet. But the questions remained, insistent whispers that refused to let me rest. In the darkness, memories of happier days flickered like distant stars. Days when Amanda's smile was genuine, when our laughter was unburdened by doubt. I clung to those memories, even as they slipped through my fingers like sand. How did it all fall apart? How had the love that once defined us become a landscape of betrayal? The thought of confronting Amanda again weighed heavily on me. I knew I had to act, had to delve deeper into this mystery to unearth the truth. But as I stood there, cloaked in shadow, the enormity of the path ahead threatened to drown me in despair. I took a deep breath, drawing strength from the resolve I'd discovered amidst the ruins of our relationship. Inside, the house was silent, the only sound the gentle rise and fall of Amanda's breath as she slept. I watched her from the doorway for a moment, my heart a conflicted mass of love and sorrow. Perhaps the journey to truth would bring clarity. Perhaps it would only deepen the chasm between us. But I knew I couldn't stop. Not now. Not when the answers were almost within reach. I turned away, the silence of the night embracing me as I stepped further into the unknown, determined to uncover the reality hidden within this web of deceit. The streetlights hummed softly as I drove through the quiet, dimly lit roads, each turn bringing with it a surge of anticipation and dread. My thoughts were a tangled mess of suspicions and half-formed conclusions. I couldn't shake the image of Amanda slipping out late at night, her silhouette both familiar and foreign as she left our home cloaked in shadows. On those nights, I would lie awake, heart pounding, waiting for the click of the door to signal her return. A signal that had become more of a trigger for my growing unease rather than a relief. Last night had been no different. I had lain awake, pretending to sleep, as her footsteps whispered across the floor. The soft creak of the door, the muted sound of her car pulling away. Each noise felt like a betrayal, compounding the hurt that had settled like a stone in my chest. Today, I found myself at the coffee shop around the corner from Amanda's office, hoping for answers. The air was thick with the aroma of roasted beans, a comforting familiarity that did little to settle my nerves. I stared out the window, nerves taut as I watched the entrance of her building, waiting for her to emerge, to catch a glimpse of the life she was living apart from me. When she finally appeared, my heart seized. She was smiling, talking animatedly into her phone. Her laughter, once a balm to my soul, now felt like a jagged reminder of her distance. Was she speaking to him? To Evan? The thought twisted my insides, a poisonous concoction of jealousy and anger. My mind drifted to the dinner receipt I'd found, the one with 2 entrees and wine, a dinner I hadn't been part of. How easy it had been for her to slip away, to weave lies with her work commitments while I stayed home, wrapped in ignorance. Each discovery had been a wound, small but deep, and I had yet to staunch the bleeding. The door chimed as a customer entered, snapping me back to the present. I turned away from the window, trying to focus, to plan my next steps. But the sound of her laughter echoed in my mind, a haunting siren call that refused to be silenced. It was a few hours later, during a lunch break, that the chance encounter I'd been dreading occurred. Standing before me in the elevator, casual and confident, was Evan. I felt my stomach lurch, the air suddenly thick with unspoken tension. He nodded a greeting, oblivious to the turmoil raging beneath my calm facade. "You're Nathan, right? Amanda's husband?" he asked, extending a hand. I shook it, my grip firm and more warning than welcome. "That's right. We've met at a few of Amanda's work events." Evan nodded, smiling a bit too easily. "Yeah, those were fun times." I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but I kept my voice steady. "It's always good to see familiar faces." His phone buzzed, and he glanced at the screen, his expression turning unreadable. "Anyway, I guess I'll see you around." The elevator doors opened, and he stepped out, leaving me with a sense of foreboding I couldn't shake. A single conversation, a mere exchange of pleasantries. Yet it felt loaded, filled with subtleties I couldn't yet decipher. I made a mental note to dig deeper into Evan, to understand the nature of their relationship beyond the facade. Returning home that evening, I found Amanda preparing dinner, her movements calm and measured, a picture of domestic bliss. My mind replayed the conversation with Evan, the dinner receipt, the late-night escapades, weaving them into a tapestry of deceit that seemed ever more plausible. I stood on the threshold of the dining room, watching her, trying to piece together the woman I had loved with the stranger she was becoming. How much was an illusion? How much was truth twisted into a convenient lie? The questions roared in my mind, demanding answers that still eluded me. As we sat down to eat, the kids' chatter filled the space, their laughter a bittersweet reminder of what was at stake. I forced myself to engage, to nod and smile, to pretend for their sake. But beneath the surface, the tension between Amanda and me simmered, unspoken and undeniable. The night wore on, and I retreated once more to the solitude of our backyard, the cool breeze a momentary balm to my troubled mind. I gazed up at the stars, seeking clarity, seeking the strength to continue unraveling the threads of this deceptively woven life. The journey to truth was proving more painful than I'd imagined, each revelation a stab at the heart. Yet I knew I couldn't turn back. The promise of answers lay just beyond the horizon, and I was too far gone to stop now. As the darkness closed in, I steeled myself for what lay ahead, determined to see through the web of deceit Amanda had spun, no matter the cost. The day dawned gray and heavy, the sky reflecting the turmoil within me. I awoke to the muted light filtering through the curtains, casting long shadows across the bedroom floor. Amanda was already up, her side of the bed cold, a lingering emptiness that I had grown accustomed to. The echoes of last night's silence loomed large, whispering promises of betrayal that refused to be silenced. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside me. Today was the day I would gather the evidence I needed. I got ready with methodical precision, my every move calculated and deliberate, the mask of normalcy firmly in place as I descended the stairs. Amanda was in the kitchen, her back turned to me as she prepared breakfast. The domestic sounds of eggs sizzling in the pan, the rhythmic scrape of the spatula against the skillet, all felt like a distant memory from a life I no longer recognized. Her voice broke the silence, casual and indifferent. "Morning, Nate," she said without turning. "Morning," I replied, my tone neutral, a stark contrast to the cacophony in my mind. I watched her as she set the table, her movements fluid yet detached, a performance she had perfected over time. The silence between us was heavy, punctuated only by the clatter of cutlery and the hum of the refrigerator. Gone were the spontaneous conversations, the laughter that once filled these moments with warmth. As we ate, I observed her closely, searching for any hint of the truth she concealed so effortlessly. Every glance, every gesture held a hidden meaning that eluded my understanding. Was this the woman I had promised to love, to honor? Or had that woman slipped away, leaving only a shadow of herself behind? The opportunity one had been waiting for presented itself later that afternoon. Amanda had a meeting scheduled, a convenient excuse she often used to slip away. I watched her leave, my heart pounding as the door clicked shut. With her gone, there was nothing to prevent me from taking the next step. I pulled out the laptop I had hidden away, my fingers trembling as I powered it on. Max, my old friend and tech genius, had installed the tracking software weeks ago, a precaution I had hoped to never need. But now, as the software booted up, I felt a grim satisfaction mingling with my dread. Navigating through her messages, I discovered a string of conversations between Amanda and Evan, each more damning than the last. The words blurred together, phrases of affection and longing that made my blood run cold. My hand shook as I clicked through the photos they had shared, each image a painful confirmation of my worst fears. There, amidst the digital clutter, lay the proof I needed. A hidden folder of photos, selfies taken together, marked with dates and locations that correlated perfectly with her unexplained absences. My chest tightened as I stared at them, the reality of their relationship unfurling before me like a nightmare brought to life. The final blow came in the form of a reservation email for a romantic getaway. Scheduled for a weekend, I was supposed to be out of town. The destination was a secluded cabin, an idyllic retreat that I had once promised Amanda we would visit together. It was as if they were mocking me, flaunting their deceit in a place that should have been ours. Tears stung my eyes as I closed the laptop, my heart a mix of fury and despair. The truth was undeniable now, a stark reality that left me reeling. My mind raced with possibilities, each more vengeful than the last. Yet beneath the anger, a hollow sadness settled, knowing that the life I had cherished was built on lies. Amanda returned home later that evening, her smile faltering as she took in my expression. I steeled myself, standing firm in the face of her deceit. The confrontation was inevitable, a reckoning that demanded to be faced. We stood in the living room, the air thick with tension. She attempted to speak, her words faltering under the weight of her duplicity. In that moment, clarity washed over me, an unwavering conviction that justice must be served. The path ahead was fraught with pain and uncertainty, but it was one I could no longer avoid. Our eyes met, a silent battle waging between love and betrayal, and as I prepared to confront her with the proof, I knew that the serene facade of our life was about to be shattered, irrevocably changed by the truth that lay in wait. The web she had spun was unraveling, and I was ready to watch it all come undone. Dinner was laid out before us, an intricate masquerade of normalcy that threatened to crumble under the weight of unspoken truths. The scent of spices mingled with the tension hanging in the air, a delicate balance that could tip with the slightest nudge. Amanda moved with a practiced grace, her smile rehearsed, her laughter a hollow echo of the joy that once filled our home. As the children chattered away, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath the surface, I struggled to maintain my composure. Each bite tasted of ash, each word a struggle to keep my voice steady. The images from the laptop lingered in my mind, a barrage of betrayal that I couldn't shake free. I glanced across the table at Amanda, searching her face for the truth that her words never offered. It was after the children had gone to bed, their dreams untouched by the turmoil that gripped their parents, that I made my move. Amanda sat across from me, a glass of wine in hand, her demeanor relaxed, a stark contrast to the tight coil of resolve winding within me. "Can we talk?" I asked, my voice steady, betraying none of the inner chaos. She nodded, setting her glass down with a casualness that belied the gravity of the moment. "Of course. What's on your mind?" I took a deep breath, grounding myself in the resolve that had become my lifeline. "I've noticed some things, Amanda, things that don't add up." Her smile didn't falter, but I caught the flicker of something in her eyes. Unease, perhaps, or the first hint of understanding. "What do you mean?" "Late nights, secretive conversations, evenings out that you couldn't explain." I listed each word a carefully aimed arrow. Amanda's gaze flitted away for a moment before returning to mine, her smile faltering. Nate, you're imagining things. Work's been hectic. I cut her off, the veneer of patience cracking. I've seen the messages, Amanda, I said, my voice low, each word deliberate. The photos, the plans for a weekend getaway. The color drained from her face, her composure slipping like a mask at the end of a play. Nathan, I stood, unable to remain seated as the weight of her deceit crashed over us both. Why, Amanda? The question hung heavily in the air, raw and unfiltered. After everything, why him? Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, her hands trembling as she reached for something to anchor herself to. It wasn't supposed to be like this, she whispered, a confession breaking through the dam of silence. I never wanted to hurt you. And yet, here we are, I replied, the edges of my voice sharp with the bitterness of betrayal. Tears traced paths down her cheeks, words tumbling out in a rush. It was a mistake, a horrible mistake. I was lost, and Evan, he was just there. Her admission hung between us, a fragile truth exposed to the harsh light of reality. I fought the tidal wave of emotion threatening to drown me, clinging to the anger that had fueled my quest for answers. You shattered us, Amanda, I said, my voice thick with the gravity of what lay before us. You need to understand that. Her sobs broke the stillness, filling the room with a sorrow that reverberated through the walls. I turned away, unable to witness the collapse of the woman I once loved, the mother of our children, reduced to a figure of remorse and regret. The moment stretched out, each second a reminder of the chasm her actions had carved between us. When I finally spoke, my voice was laced with finality. I need time. I need space to figure out where to go from here. Amanda nodded, a silent agreement to the terms dictated by the choices she had made. Her cries followed me as I left the room, a haunting melody echoing through the corridors of our fractured lives. I stepped into the cool night air, the silence wrapping around me like a shroud. The stars were hidden behind a veil of clouds, mirroring the obscured future that lay ahead. But amid the uncertainty, one truth remained clear. The path to redemption was long and arduous, and I was only just beginning the journey. As I stood beneath the vast expanse of the night, I knew that the confrontation was but a single step in my pursuit of retribution. The storm had been unleashed, and there was no turning back. The seeds of despair had been sown, but somewhere within the wreckage lay the promise of a new beginning, one that I would forge on my own terms. In the quiet of the night, I resolved to reclaim the narrative Amanda had tried to rewrite. The game was set, and the pieces were moving toward a future where justice would be served, and the web of deceit unraveled for all to see. I spent the following days moving through life like a vessel adrift, an undercurrent of determination driving me toward a singular goal: retribution. The confrontation with Amanda had laid bare the heart of her betrayal, but the endgame was yet to come. My mind was a controlled chaos, a battleground where grief and resolve clashed, fueling my resolve to ensure the scales of justice would tilt in my favor. In the quiet solitude of our home, I began to construct the framework of my plan, reaching out to Max, whose loyalty had never wavered. His voice crackled over the phone, a lifeline in the turbulent waters of my existence. I need your expertise, Max, I confessed, the weight of the request heavy in my words. It's time to bring Evan into the light. Max was silent for a moment, considering the gravity behind my words. I'm in. What's the target? Evan's professional dealings. If I can find something unscrupulous, it'll be my leverage. Max agreed without hesitation, a testament to the bond we shared. As an IT specialist, his skills were unparalleled, a secret weapon in my arsenal. With his help, the digital world was an open book, waiting to reveal the chapters Evan had written in shadows. The days blurred as I prepared for the operation that would set the final pieces in motion. I honed my focus, weaving through the banalities of daily life, maintaining the facade of normalcy while plotting the downfall of those who had wronged me. Amanda's presence was a constant reminder of the stakes, each interaction a silent acknowledgement of the new reality we inhabited. Her apologies were frequent yet hollow, an echo of remorse that did little to mend the fracture between us. I watched her with a detached gaze, a spectator in the life we had once shared. The night before my planned departure for a supposed business trip, I took a moment to reflect on the journey thus far. The stars had emerged, piercing through the veil of clouds like shards of light, illuminating the path I had chosen. I breathed deeply, finding solace in the night's embrace, the cool air grounding me amid the chaos. The following morning, I left the house with a suitcase packed with the essentials: clothes, a laptop, and the indispensable drive of justice. I assured Amanda of my return, playing my role with precision, every word calculated to mask the reality of my intentions. "Be safe," she whispered, her eyes clouded with emotion. I nodded, resisting the urge to confront her with the plans she was unaware of. "I'll call when I land." The drive to the airport was serene, the road unfurling before me like an unwritten page, ready to capture the story I was about to unfold. Once parked, I hailed a cab to Max's apartment, a makeshift command center for what lay ahead. Max greeted me with a nod, his usual air of confidence reassuring. We spent the afternoon reviewing the information he had unearthed: emails, transaction histories, a trail of illicit dealings Evan had tried to conceal. It was everything I needed and more, the leverage that would tip the balance in my favor. The plan was simple yet formidable: a corporate event where Amanda and Evan would be present, an arena where their actions would be laid bare for all to witness. I felt the anticipation thrumming beneath my skin, a promise of the justice I was about to enact. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the city in a cloak of twilight, I prepared for the event that would bring the truth to light. The venue was a testament to the world Evan inhabited, a realm of glitz and glamour hiding the rot beneath. I entered the space with purpose, my heart a steady rhythm in my chest, the noise of the gathering a distant hum. I moved through the crowd with deliberate steps, my eyes scanning the room until I found them: Amanda and Evan, their proximity a testament to their clandestine connection. I approached with measured calm, every detail in place as I initiated the final act of retribution. The room was filled with the susurrus of conversation, laughter weaving through the air like threads of a tapestry soon to be unraveled. Evan's face lit up with recognition as I closed the distance. "Nathan, didn't expect to see you here," he exclaimed, arrogance dripping from his words. I offered a smile that held no warmth, my gaze locking onto Amanda's. "I wouldn't miss this for the world," I replied, each word chosen with care, each syllable a harbinger of what was to come. With a deft motion, I connected the presentation to the overhead projector, casting Evan's misdeeds across the screen for all to see. The room fell silent, eyes turning to the unraveling narrative displayed before them. Amanda's face blanched as the truth she had tried to hide was laid bare, each image, each document spelling out a betrayal that was no longer hers alone. Evan's expression twisted from confusion to horror as the implications set in, the foundation of his world fracturing beneath the weight of revelation. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, a rising tide of indignation and shock. I watched as Amanda and Evan faced the mounting tide of their transgressions, ostracized by the very world they had sought to manipulate. The moment stretched, a tableau of justice crafted from the remnants of our shattered lives. I turned away, leaving them to the scrutiny and consequences of their actions, a sense of vindication settling within me like a long-awaited balm. As I stepped into the crisp evening air, the weight of betrayal finally lifted. I found myself at the threshold of a new beginning. The path to retribution had been arduous, but the clarity it brought was profound, a promise of renewal amidst the ruins. The web of deceit had been unraveled, and from its ashes, I was ready to forge a future of my choosing. The night air felt electric as I stepped away from the chaos of the hotel ballroom, my mind still awash with the aftermath of my carefully orchestrated revelation. The cascade of gasps and whispers, the rush of shocked faces turning towards Amanda and Evan, replayed in my mind like an echo of triumph. I clutched that moment to my chest, a trophy forged from their betrayal, a symbol of both destruction and justice. Yet, as I stood alone beneath the star-scattered sky, A strange stillness settled over me. I had envisioned this moment in countless ways, prepared for the confrontation with every fiber of my being. But now, as I breathed in the cool night air, the anticipated euphoria mingled with something deeper, an unfamiliar sense of release, an unexpected calm. The quiet enveloped me, a stark contrast to the crescendo of voices and accusations that I had left behind. Each breath I took felt lighter, as though the burden of knowing, of carrying the secret of Amanda's infidelity, had finally lifted. There was power in the truth, a raw, undeniable force that I had harnessed at last. Yet amid the catharsis, a fragile thread of sadness wove through my thoughts. The life we had built, the dreams we had shared, they lay shattered by the truth I had uncovered. I couldn't help but reflect on the collateral damage, the way our children's laughter would echo differently in the spaces we once called home. The path to retribution had not been without cost, and that sobering reality settled in the quiet moments after victory. A few deep breaths steadied me as I turned away from the glowing lights of the venue. My steps carried me down the street, away from the remnants of Amanda's deception, toward a future that was both undefined and open. The promise of new beginnings whispered to me on the wind, accompanied by the faint melody of a city alive and unburdened by the secrets of my past. As I walked, memories of Sarah, my supportive colleague, drifted into my mind. Her kindness, her presence, an unexpected balm during my darkest days. It was too soon to define what lay between us, but her image lingered, a reminder that life moved inexorably toward healing and renewal. At that moment, I realized the truth held its own kind of justice, but it did not demand isolation. As the weight of retribution eased, so too did the fear of vulnerability, replaced by a burgeoning sense of freedom. I could choose what came next, sculpt my narrative from the ashes with care and intention. I could embrace the open road, a landscape uncharted yet filled with potential. Returning to my hotel room that night, I stood by the window, gazing out over the city that sprawled beneath me. The stars above twinkled with the promise of infinite possibilities, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. They guided me through the night, a constellation of hope visible even through the haze of city lights. The journey from betrayal to this moment had been arduous, marked by anger and despair, but the road to forgiveness was more profound, a transformative path I had only just begun. As I lay in bed, the echoes of the evening fading into the background, I found solace in the knowledge that retribution had cleared the way for redemption. Amanda's actions had changed me, yes, but I would not be defined by the shadows of our past. I was ready to step into the light, to embrace the unknown with all its challenges and opportunities. This was not the end of my story, merely the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with hope, possibility, and the unwavering belief that from the depths of betrayal, I could rise anew. The first light of dawn crept through the curtains, casting a soft glow across the room. It was a new day, a canvas unmarked by the betrayals of yesterday. As I stirred from sleep, I was filled with a sense of clarity and purpose that had been absent for too long. Though the echoes of the previous night's revelations were still fresh in my mind, so too was the conviction that I had taken the first steps toward reclaiming my life. I stretched, welcoming the subtle ache of renewal in my bones. The weight I had carried for so long felt lighter now, a reminder that I could move forward without the shackles of deceit. Amanda's betrayal, Evan's complicity. They were chapters one had closed, stories that would no longer dictate the course of my life. As I dressed, my mind turned to Sarah. Her understanding eyes, her gentle smile, had been a source of comfort in the storm. The prospect of seeing her today brought with it a flutter of anticipation, a feeling I hadn't allowed myself to entertain until now. It was an emotion untouched by the bitterness of the past, a fragile thread of hope that whispered of possibilities yet unexplored. The drive home was accompanied by a soundtrack of city life waking up, a symphony of car horns and bustling streets, all harmonizing with the rhythm of a world in motion. Each mile brought me closer to the familiar, yet I felt different, as though I was returning to a life that was now mine to reshape. As I pulled into the driveway, a moment of hesitation held me back. The house loomed before me, a silent witness to all that had transpired. It held memories of both happiness and heartache, but as I stepped inside, I resolved that it would also be a place of healing. The children were awake, their voices a joyful crescendo that warmed the walls. Their laughter was pure, untouched by the turmoil that had clouded our lives. I paused in the doorway, watching them with a renewed appreciation for the simple, untainted joys they brought. "Hey, Dad!" my son called out, his face lighting up at the sight of me. I grinned, enveloping them both in a hug, their presence a balm to my weary soul. "Missed you guys," I confessed, my voice muffled against their hair. Their chatter filled the kitchen as I prepared breakfast, every moment a reminder of the life I was determined to rebuild. It was a task that required patience, but one that I was ready to embrace, step by step, day by day. Later, as the children were whisked away to school, I found myself with Sarah at a small cafe near our office. The space was filled with the aroma of fresh coffee and the gentle hum of conversation, a backdrop that made our presence feel both private and connected. Sarah's eyes met mine, a question lingering in their depths. "How are you feeling today, Nathan?" I considered her question, searching for the right words. "Different," I admitted, a smile playing at the corners of my mouth. "Freer, maybe?" Her smile was warm, understanding, a reflection of the kindness she had offered me without reservation. "I'm glad to hear that. You've been through a lot." "Thanks to you," I replied, my gratitude genuine. "Your support means more than I can say." The conversation flowed easily, each exchange a thread that wove an intricate tapestry of shared understanding. There was no pressure to define what lay between us, no urgency to label the connection that had formed amid the chaos. I found solace in the simplicity of her presence, a reminder that life could be gentle, even amidst the tumult. As we parted ways, my heart was lighter, the prospect of exploring a future with Sarah interwoven with the fabric of my thoughts. It was an open-ended journey, one I was prepared to venture into with cautious optimism and hope. Returning home that evening, I was greeted by a sunset that painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, a vibrant display that resonated with the changes within me. I stood on the porch for a moment, taking in the beauty of the horizon, a symbol of new beginnings. As I stepped inside, I knew that the path forward would not be without its challenges, but I was ready to face them with courage and resolve. The web of deceit had been unraveled, and in its place, I was crafting a narrative of resilience and renewal. The future was an unwritten chapter, a journey of healing that welcomed me with open arms. I would navigate it with the lessons learned from the past, yet unburdened by its shadows. In the quiet of the night, as the stars embraced the sky, I felt hope unfurl within me, a promise that from the ashes of betrayal, new dreams could be born, and a life rebuilt with strength and grace awaited.